and look at the next article, page 13, that deals with El Nino phenomena, and it bring out the findings of a new study. So let us see what the article is saying. But before that, a brief introduction about what is El Nino and La Nina. El Nino and La Nina are very important climatic phenomena that occur in the Central Eastern Pacific. In the Central Eastern Pacific between the coast of Australia and the Peru. This is where we witness this phenomena. In this waters of the Pacific, so La Nina refers to the condition where abnormally cold temperatures are reported along the Peruvian coast due to upwelling of this cold current. Peruvian current is a cold current, so the upwelling of this cold current along the Peruvian coast causes an abnormal drop in the temperature towards the coast of Peru, and this in turn triggers a strong convection that has an influence on the movement of trade winds in the Indian Ocean, and it has an impact on weather systems and around the world, from Australia to Southeast Asia to India to Africa. The weather systems across this region, across the Indian Ocean, is directly influenced by this phenomena. Learning a condition is said to be beneficial for Indian monsoons. This is the general understanding. Generally, it is believed that La Nina here is a good for Indian monsoon because it will bring more rainfall. It instigates strong trade winds that pick up more moisture along the Indian Ocean and Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea. It brings plentiful rainfall for Indian subcontinent. So the Indian economy, India's agriculture is directly tied to the monsoon, and La Nina in a condition is a favorable condition. The converse of it is El Nino. Under El Nino condition, you witnessed abnormally high temperatures along the Peruvian coast. These are normally high temperatures along the Peruvian coast. Reverses the convection current and affects the trade winds. Indian Ocean affects the collection of moisture by these trade winds, which are responsible for monsoon in India. So El Nino is a bad news for India. Currently, for example, this year we have entered a El Nino season. The last 3 years were La Nina years, which have a good news for India, received plentiful rainfall. But starting from this year, at least for a few seasons, we are expected to go through a El Nino phenomena, which will likely to have a diverse impact on Indian monsoon. So with this basic understanding, let us see what article is pointing out, because the article is entirely focused on this new study which has been published in scientific journal. There are some important facts that you can take away from this, is relevant for your prelims and mains. So now that you know that El Nino and La Nina, right, is this oscillation between these two phenomena, cyclical swing that happen every few years, it is called ENSO or El Nino Southern Oscillation. Now the study has pointed out that ENSO phenomena, the El Nino Southern Oscillation phenomena, which is a cyclical swing between La Nina and El Nino seasons, this has a varied impact, and it has a varied impact on different parts of India. This study is pointing out that El Nino and La Nina does not affect the whole of India in the same manner. Its impact on southern India is different compared to its impact on central India, and its impact on north India is entirely different. This is what the new study is pointing out, and this is a very, very crucial finding. Right, previous understanding was very limited. Previously it was believed that La Nina is always good for India, El Nino is always bad for India. This was the larger belief based on the scientific evidence. But now further studies have shown that different parts of India, particularly northern India and central India and southern India, are affected differently by ENSO phenomena. According to the study in central India, which is considered as monsoon core zone, where agriculture is extremely dependent on monsoons. Here the study has shown that central India is increasingly getting disassociated from ENSO phenomena, and only 10% of droughts and heavy rainfall in the region is linked to ENSO fluctuations. It means over a period of time, the connection between ENSO phenomena and monsoon rainfall in central India is declining. The impact is going down. Central India is increasingly getting disassociated from the adverse or positive impact of ENSO fluctuation. And according to the study, only 10% of the droughts or floods and heavy rainfall in central India is a result of ENSO fluctuations. Is that clear? Whereas the study has shown that ENSO has a huge impact on weather patterns of northern India. It is increasing the connection between the ENSO phenomena and the actual rainfall received in northern India. This connection is strengthening, and almost 70% of rainfall fluctuations in northern part of India is connected to ENSO cycle. Which means because of La Nina and El Nino conditions, there are a higher probability of heavy rainfall or drought occurring in North India as compared to Central India. If you look at the Southern India, here the connection between the ENSO and rainfall received is largely stable over the decades. The strength of the connection is largely stable. La Nina brings more rainfall, El Nino affects the rainfall, but the strength and the connection here between these phenomena in Central Eastern Pacific and impact on Southern India has largely remained stable over decades, especially over the last 1 century. But the connection of ENSO with rainfall in Northern India has increased, which means North India is more vulnerable during El Nino season, and North India is more likely to witness less rainfall compared to Central India and Southern India. Similarly, during La Nina season, North India is likely to receive more rainfall, witness more floods compared to Southern India and Central India. Essentially, ENSO phenomena has a strong connection with the weather patterns in Northern India, whereas in Central India the connection is declining, and in Southern India it remains stable. Please look at this data. This inverse relationship between the Indian monsoon and ENSO, right, it can be divided into 3 different phases. The connection was very strong from 1901 to 1940, where ENSO fluctuations would have a huge impact on Indian monsoons. It remains stable for another 40 years, and from 1941 to 1980. But post 1981, the connection has actually weakened. It appears that this is like a cyclical phenomena, which is roughly changing once in 40 years. So this is what the experts are trying to understand, right? The actual impact of ENSO fluctuation on Indian monsoon varied across different regions. Now you might ask, why do we witness these changes from northern India to central India to southern India? See, monsoonal rainfall in India is influenced by 2 major factors. There are 2 broad factors that influence the monsoon. One is external factor, and the impact of the ENSO fluctuation, right? That is one obvious factor which is affecting the influencing the monsoon, because it directly affects the trade winds. The southwest trade winds, which brings in southwest monsoons and their ability to carry the warm moist air, which eventually participate all Indian subcontinents. So ENSO phenomena is an external playing a role in determining the extent of monsoon rainfall in India. There is an internal factor which is a reason within the Indian subcontinent. It's called the monsoon throw. The one should throw the monster trough, which is elongated a long pressure area extending from Pakistan to towards Bay of Bengal. From Pakistan towards Bay of Bengal, in this northwest southeast direction is a low pressure trough zone that extends, which plays a direct role in influencing monsoon within the country. This low pressure area, this low pressure trough, it keeps swinging, it keeps changing between the north and south of India. During the monsoon seasons, whatever the low pressure area is wherever the more active in particular region, more intense rainfall is witnessed, because it is mainly fed on moisture that is being collected brought in from Bay of Bengal. As you know, prior to monsoon season, in the middle of monsoon season, and also during the post monsoon season, low pressure centers form in the Bay of Bengal with a greater frequency, which is called as a depression as compared to Arabian Sea. These are low level cyclonic systems that forms in Bay of Bengal and starts moving towards the Indian subcontinent. So the low pressure trough, where it is present in northern India or central India or southern India, that determines the extent of rainfall as it draws in moist air, the moist trade winds from the Bay of Bengal, bringing more rainfall in different part of the country. So these are the two factors which influence the extent of rainfall received in different part of the country. One is ENSO phenomena, the ENSO fluctuation, which is external factor, and the second is the monsoon throw, which is found within the Indian subcontinent. Now climate change has become an added factor to this. The rising global temperatures due to global warming is a playing role in influencing these phenomena. Climatologists, meteorologists, they all agree to this opinion that they have found evidence as well to link global warming directly with the fluctuations happening in the ENSO seasons. And with regard to the low temperature trough, the temperature in the Indian Ocean in general have increased. The sea surface temperature have gone up. This directly influences the Indian monsoon, and it is creating more depressions, more low pressure centers, and the occurrence of low pressure troughs. Our central India causes a sufficient rainfall in the central India. So here the ENSO fluctuations has a limited impact, rather the strength connection between the ENSO fluctuation and rainfall in central India is declining because there are more depressions forming due to higher rate of evaporation, which is a result of climate change, global warming. What will happen when you have higher sea surface temperature? There is more evaporation, right? More moisture, and the low pressure centers turns into a depression, a low level cyclonic system, and pushes the low pressure trough to be centered around the central India, which brings adequate rainfall even during the El Nino season. Even when El Nino is present, the rising temperature in Indian Ocean brings adequate rainfall to central India. This is why the researchers are of opinion that connection between central Indian rainfall and ENSO fluctuation is declining. Whereas the opposite is true for northern India, the connection is strengthening, which means El Nino will have a more devastating impact on North India as a depression is strong enough. To reach northern India as compared to past, due to changes caused in temperatures by global warming, these low-level cyclonic depression forming in Bay of Bengal, they are not reaching out to northern India as strongly as they are reaching out before. That is why there is a strong connection bringing an adverse impact on stronger adverse impact during El Nino season. So North India is more vulnerable in that regard, as the trade winds which bring the moisture can get directly affected, whereas in southern India this is very consistent. It remained very stable irrespective of the ENSO phenomena. Southern India in general broadly receives decent amount of rainfall, and connection of the strength of the connection has largely remained stable. Of course, La Nina, El Nino have an impact. La Nina is a positive impact causing slightly more rainfall. El Nino causes a shortage of rainfall, but this connection has remained stable. It hasn't turned diverse, or it has turned positively, whereas in central India it has turned positively where the connection has declined. But in northern India the connection has intensified, causing a strong impact of El Nino. So these are some new findings that have been brought out, published in a research paper which has been peer review, as well as right now moving on to the next article, very small article. We have covered this topic in fact, but I want to reiterate some points become I feel important, very important for your prelims needs. The topic refers to the conservation of Amazonian rainforest, which has captured global headlines because recently very important summit took place in South America that focused on the conservation of Amazonian rainforest. Trust me, UPSC can focus on this topic. There could be a geography based prelims question, or environment related questions, or a detailed mains question asking you about the recent developments, the organization which was involved in negotiating a deal for conserving the Amazonian rainforest. So please prepare for this, and If you look at the Amazonian rainforest, the Amazon river basin, which is also referred to as Amazonia, it is a massive ecosystem. It is a very rich in biodiversity. It is blessed with rich flora and fauna. There are plenty of threatened species of animals, birds, plants that are home that are present in the Amazonian river basin. Now this critical ecosystem in Southern America is shared between multiple South American countries. Majority of the Amazonia basin is present in Brazil. Please remember this fact. This fact itself is important for your prelims exam. 60% of Amazonia river basin, right, which includes Amazon river, and the forest is present in Brazil. 13 of it is present in Peru, 8% in Bolivia, 7 and 6% in Colombia and Venezuela respectively, 3% in Guyana and Suriname, and around 1% in French Guiana and Ecuador. Please look at the map. I have added a map as well for your reference. This is the massive size of the Amazonian rainforest that includes the Amazon river basin. So please be familiar with the countries that are a part of this basin. Very, very important. Brazil and Peru, they have the highest coverage. Is that clear? Now, according to this article in the Hindu, the Amazon rainforest covers 1.3% of the earth's surface and 4.1% of the land surface. So it is very massive area. I am adding this fact here to help you understand the size and the scale of the rainforest that we are talking about. See, the map actually do a disservice. The scaled map that we use, they don't give you a real idea of what the exist of the sizes, real term, right? In terms of area, this is a very, very massive ecosystem, and it's one of the most critical carbon sink in the world. It has the ability to sequester around 76 billion tons of carbon, and thus it plays a critical role in moderating global temperatures. It plays a key role in stabilizing the global climate and in tackling global warming and climate change. That is why Amazon is often referred to as a lung of the world, and it is one of the critical lungs of the world, which is absorbing the carbon, removing the excess carbon, and thus moderating global temperatures. But today, unfortunately, such a critical ecosystem is under threat. It is facing a grave risk largely because of the human activities. Many governments in these regions have followed irresponsible environmental policies. For example, in Colombia, organized crime is massive, especially drug production. Drug trafficking is massive, and in many drug cartels, they have taken over large forest areas where they carry out drug production, and these drug cartels have even overthrown the government's control in these areas. They have established their own narco trafficking groups. Especially they are indulging in narco-terrorism. There is a massive violence between the different drug cartels, between different criminal groups. They control different part of the forest, and they clear the forest, that deforest the area on a very large scale to continue their drug production and drug trafficking. The Colombian government, which has been weak in tackling the drug menace, so it has not been able to conserve and protect the critical ecosystem. That is just one example. Similarly, in Brazil, we have had a controversial leaders like Jair Bolsonaro. Excuse me, Bolsonaro, the former Brazilian president. He was from far right-wing political party which never prioritized the environmental conservation. He gave out licenses, contracts to the industry and allowed them to burn down the Amazon forest in Brazil. You have heard about the massive forest fires a few years back in Brazil. These were deliberately triggered by the industry with the support and blessings of the government itself. Thousands of hectares of Amazon rainforest was destroyed because of this large-scale deforestation and industrialization. So many governments here have been irresponsible in protecting and conserving the Amazonian rainforest. So finally, a step is being taken under the leadership of Brazil, along with all these countries, to restore the ecological balance and conserve and protect this critical ecosystem. Their goal is to build the resilience back into the ecosystem and to promote afforestation and tackle the deforestation. So to achieve this goal, the new Brazilian leader Lula da Silva, who have an incredible record in promoting the socio-economic development, he initiated a proposal to review an old organization known as Amazon Cooperation Treaty Organization. This organization was established in 1995 to focus on conserving and protecting the Amazon region. But over a period of time, the organization had become dormant. Countries hadn't given enough focus to the organization, and for many years the organization had not even met. But no thanks to Brazilian President Lula da Silva, this group had been revived, and just a few days back a very important summit took place where all the Amazon countries they met under the leadership of Brazil, and they have adopted the Bellum Declaration. The summit took place in a place called Belém in Brazil. So the Balance Declaration focuses on promoting cooperation between these Amazonian countries to promote the conservation and protection of the Amazon rainforest. They have adopted an objective of tackling deforestation, illegal binding and logging of these countries, trees. This is something that have prioritized since the anthropogenic impact is huge. They have agreed to work together to tackle the large-scale deforestation happening because of industrialization and urbanization. They are focused on restricting, regulating illegal mining, prohibiting illegal mining entirely, and reducing deforestation. They are also focused on implementing integrated fire management system to tackle wildfires, because wildfires have been a major threat to Amazon forest. Is a clear massive wildfires have destroyed large part of the ecosystem. So these countries are going to work together to create an integrated fire management system. They are also focusing on protecting the rights of the indigenous communities. Amazon even today is home to several indigenous tribes, native tribal communities which are present in the Amazon ecosystem. And as you know, tribal communities, they share a very close link with their environment, with their forest. They play a critical role in conserving the forest and resources. So these government have committed to prioritize the rights of indigenous people and allow them to play a role in community conservation of Amazon rainforest. So all these discussions have taken place, and they have agreed to implement these goals and principles as part of Bellum Declaration. But however, one criticism is that they have not identified any specific targets, and there are no deadlines for achieving any of these goals. This is a criticism. The Balance Declaration has been praised because it at least brought the countries together. They held a discussion on conserving the Amazon. They have identified the broad goals, which is to tackle deforestation, recognize the rights of indigenous communities, and tackle the wildfires. So it is good they are focusing on right, but the criticism is that they have failed to identify the specific targets. They haven't given any deadlines for themselves. So without specific targets and deadlines, the initiative may not succeed as envisioned. All right, so this is what you should understand about Bellum Declaration that's been adopted by Amazon Cooperation Treaty Organization. That's all. Let us move on to the next article in the next video. Thanks for watching.